what's going on? We are live. Welcome. Hey guys, I hope you guys are having an amazing freaking day so far. I hope you guys have had a fantastic week. Welcome to the TGIF podcast, where we play the songs that sound just like everybody else, more than anybody else. Carlin, how's the weather out there, Carlin?
It's looking good today, Jesse. It's nice and breezy, not too rough. About 68 degrees.
Well, there you guys have it. For those of you guys who couldn't be bothered for the long trip to the window, there's a look at today's forecast in Alamogordo, New Mexico, as we like to call it. Carlin, ironically, is at the place that was my very first duty station when I joined the Air Force when I was a wee little lad. Holloman Air Force Base outside of White Sands, New Mexico. And the town right outside that base is about 10 miles from the base or so, right? Give or take, ballpark, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
Give or take. Okay. So the town, when I lived there, this was back in 2008, 2009. And
2010 to 2012, based on the person I talked to that was stationed with you.
Definitely was in Alaska in 2010.
But I don't know.
When I was there, Carlin, when I was in Alamogordo is the name of the town. We called it Alamogordo. But when we were in Alamogordo, the only thing that was there was an IHOP and a Walmart. And it was fantastic. I loved it.
Don't have
the movie theater. I saw, I think it was Iron Man. I think it was the first Iron Man that came out. Oh my gosh. Julie Tarbush is here? Dude, when I saw this comment, escape the ordinary, when I saw that, Carlin, I thought it was like, I was like, oh my gosh, dude, do we have like a band? Like, I thought it was like a band. It sounds like a band name almost, dude. Escape the ordinary. Dude, I dig it. What's up, Julie? Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you, guys. We got Ken Wilson in the house. Always numero uno to get in here into the comments is Ken Wilson. We got Derek. What up, dog? Love this. Freddie Rivas, thank you for being here, bro. I appreciate you guys. We have an amazing guest coming on today. Before we get into that, we got a couple announcements for you guys. Dude, Ray's here. What up, Ray? Ooh, people know who our guest is. Ooh. Hey, our guest, give me a nod. Seth, give me a nod. Do you know who this person is? He says yes. Okay, we got some fans. We got some fans in the stands today. I love it. Thank you guys for being here. Before we get too deep into this, we've got a couple announcements to make. Carlin. Okay. One of the most transformative pieces of literature that I have ever come across my entire life was the book that we just got done reading. The last, was it been 2 or 3 weeks now? We wrapped it up last week, right?
Right.
And for these guys who don't know, it's a book called Outwitting the Devil. Now, I'll be the first to admit, I was the guy, I did it. I judged a book by its cover. I shouldn't have. In my mind, I've heard everybody say raving things about it. But in my mind, I was like, you know what? I need to be reading books about negotiating. I need to be reading books that are, in my mind, money-making activities. And what I ended up doing, man, was I ended up putting that book on hold. And I finally read it. Nay, I listened to the audiobook. And if you guys have not listened, the audiobook is so much better than the book. Now, you obviously, you can't say that for a lot of things, but they did so good with the audiobook on this. If you guys have not, Mindy Landers, what's going on, friend? Pat, I see you here in the comments. Thank you. Mindy Landers, dude, Outwitting the Devil. I'm telling you guys right now, I state my entire reputation on this. Read this book. This book will transform your life. This is the one book. And Mindy said it right here. Get the audio version. The audio is so effing killer. Guys, I promise you, I state my reputation on this. It will transform your life. Oh my gosh. I wish I knew who this was. But you are absolutely right. The person who played the devil in this made it way too real. I agree. It was wow, man. I don't think anybody could top that. They did it so good. For those of you guys who don't know, I'm going to give you some context real quick. But then I'm going to dive into why we're talking about this and where we're going with this. Outwitting the Devil isn't. By the way, this book was written, guys, in 1938. It was written in 1938. It wasn't published until 2011. The gentleman who wrote it, Napoleon Hill, passed away in 1970. He wrote it in 1938, passed away in 1970. This book was not published until 2011. So you can imagine the things that are in this book that was like some pretty extreme stuff, but in a good way. If you want to learn and you want to master yourself, you want to understand how all of that is tied to your wealth, this is it right here. And basically the premise of this book, and if you listen to it on 2x speed, which I do all my books, it takes about an hour before the interview actually starts. And this gentleman, and to this day, I don't think anybody knows whether this was real or fictitious, or nobody knows. But the way this was written, Napoleon Hill has an interview with the devil. And he goes into who he is and what he is and how he was created. And he talks about, the universe, and we've got good and you've got bad and you've got positive and negative, and it's everywhere around us. You have to have both of them. But the way that you escape that, the way that the way that the devil captures souls is from people who don't think, people who he calls being a drifter. They drift through life. They criticize, they condemn, they complain. They believe every little thing that they see. They run with the crowd. I mean, it's crazy. When you think of in terms of wealth, there's a 99% and there's a 1%. 1%. So 2 out of every 100 people escape the devil's claws. And it's all, oh my gosh, it's so good. I'm not going to ruin it for you guys. We read it for book club, and it was so effing good. And to think that we followed it up with another amazing book. Carlin, why don't you tell us a little bit about that real quick?
I'm really excited about this book, because this book is actually this book is the book that got us started with a lot of the people that you and I work with now. It got started with, a group of people that we really connected and really bonded and built a really good relationship with. So like Miri was in that group with us, and she read that book with us, and we built this amazing team. Angel Miller, another great person that was in there.
Yes.
Luke, so many amazing individuals that I had the opportunity to read this book with and build this community with, this tribe with.
So this was a year ago that this happened.
A little bit over a year, yeah.
Yeah.
So the book is called Tribe of Millionaires, and yeah, dude, it's a killer book. Like it hits home, and the way the story is told is very engaging. Like, I love the way it's communicated. I love the way it's conveyed, and I love the messages that come through this book, because I've picked it up a handful of times, and every time I read it, I'm at a different point in my journey, and something just sticks a little bit more. Like I can be like, oh, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. I understand why they have the one sheets now. I understand why those are important. Because the first time I read that, it was that concept, the one sheet, that was an intimidating idea. That was Allison, another fabulous person I got to read the book with. Like, the one sheet to me was the scariest part of that book, because I was
what is the one sheet? Like, summarize that for everybody who has no idea what the one sheet is real quick.
So in your tribe, you collectively, you don't criticize or condemn. You collectively work through these things together. Like, there is one point where one of the gentlemen stands up and says, I've been a little bit excessive with my exercise. I need to take back, and that's an interesting thing to hear. When you think of exercise, you think, oh, I need to do more. Right. But there's a certain degree where you need to throttle that back. Jeremiah, the name of the book is called Tribe of Millionaires.
So it really, guys, it sets a premise on how important it is to be around the right people, how important it is to build your tribe. And it gives you concepts and things to include to make sure that that group is being held accountable. It's being ran a certain way. You guys are actually pushing the needle forward. And it's not one of those things where, and maybe you guys resonate with this. Maybe you guys have been in certain accountability groups that didn't work. I know that was the same thing for me. But you know why? It's because it wasn't structured. It wasn't met with an intention. It didn't have the right people making up that group that it needed to be in order to be as effective as it could have been. And this book takes care of all of that. And not only that, just like Outwitting the Devil, it's a story. It's kind of a story-based book with application in it.
I love this book. Like it truly puts into perspective why you need to have the right people around you. And that book is a big reason for me being able to recognize that there are people in my life that not that I didn't want them there, is that having them in that space at that time didn't fill a need. It felt more energy consuming than energy contributing.
Right.
And this book really helped put that into perspective for me.
So for everybody wanting to not only read the book, but then discuss it kind of in a mastermind type scenario, how can people get into your guys' book club? Do they go post in the Growth Co and say, hey, I am picking up this book, I am reading it, and I want to join the next class on May 10th? Is that the best way to get included? Or how are you and Haley having everybody come into the group?
So we have a registration link. Haley, I think she's on here. Haley, if you can, do me a solid and go make a post with the registration link so everybody can get set up and get those notifications. If you can't find the link for some reason, send me a message, send Haley a message. We're more than happy to help you get set up and get into book club. Our next meeting is next Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Okay. So you guys can reach out to Carlin. You guys can reach out to Haley. If you guys can't find either one of those two, go into the Growth Co Facebook group and say, hey, I got the Tribe of Millionaires book. I want to attend the meeting for May 10th next Friday. Send me the registration link. And either myself, Haley, or Carlin will get you guys the registration link. I promise you guys, these things make up the foundation to build something very successful on. It's actually a big part of our mentorship. And we got one of those individuals that's going to be coming on today. Before we bring him up, I want to let everybody know we are doing a mastermind in Las Vegas, June 13th, 14th, and 15th. Viva Las Vegas, man. Do you know I've never been to Vegas? I'm really excited for this. June 13th, 14th, and 15th. You guys can go to unleashandinvest.com for the details. We have early bird pricing at less than $700 for a 3-day event. Now, I've hammered down on this, but for those of you guys who aren't familiar with what this mastermind is, I've been to enough events to know that the power of a lot of these masterminds and events and things that we have is all in the networking. But if you don't know how to network, if you don't have an intentionality on what it is you're trying to do, what your goals are, what your day-to-day looks like, what your milestones look like, if you have no idea what you're trying to accomplish or who you need to be bringing into your business, then how effective are you really when you go to these events? And so with that in mind, we thought, man, if that's where the true value is, and you go there, you get a lot of rah-rah stuff, and it's really exciting, and everybody's pumped up, and it's all good and great and grand and beautiful. If you go there and you get the motivation, by the time you get home, you lose it, and then you have 100 contacts in your phone that's really, it's there. But there's no kind of intentionality. There's no expectations for how those are going to move your business forward. Yeah, baby. Oh, tell her I said. Go make you a peanut butter sandwich. Okay. So with that in mind, we put this mastermind together and said, theoretically, if everybody came to this and they did not talk to one person, which is impossible, but I want you to understand the mindset and intentionality that went into developing this and putting this together. If everybody came and did not talk to one person, how could we guarantee, notice I use the word guarantee, and how could we guarantee that they would see the results that they want? And that's what we've designed through workshops, everything that we have going on. I'm really, really excited for it. I've never been to Vegas. And so you know that with the networking on top of that, this event is completely unparalleled. So if you guys want more information on there, you can always reach out to me. You can check out the website, unleashandinvest.com. There'll be the details there. You guys can sign up for there. Again, that's June 13th, 14th, and 15th. That's what you guys can expect. And as I said, I I use the word guarantee in there. And I don't use that word lightly, because if you do come to this event, I want you guys to know, I want everybody in here to know, everybody who's listening right now and everybody who watches this in the future, if you come to this event and if you feel for any reason that this was not really worth the money that you paid for, that you really didn't get much out of it, there was a bunch of rah-rah stuff and, there was no intentionality behind it. If you feel that way, I will cut you a check. No questions asked. I will fully refund you. I want you to not think about what is the cost. With that type of guarantee in place, what is the cost of missing out on this, of not going to this? There is a cap on this, by the way, and we're keeping it small and intimate for a reason, so it's effective. We don't want several hundred people or thousands of people here. We're keeping it small and intimate so it's effective, it's intentional, and you're seeing freaking results. That's what we're all about. That's what this event is. I'm telling you right now, I can help you do it. If we need to stay up till midnight after the event or all night going over whatever it is, making phone calls, I will personally do that with you. I will stay up all night with you and go do the event the next day. I'll do anything I need to ensure that you know exactly what your next steps are and we eliminate all the guesswork. I don't want you to just figure out how to do it till it's good enough, guys. I want to show you guys how to do it to where you can't get it wrong. I have never been to another event with this type of guarantee. I promise you, I can help you, and I will. If you guys want more information, again, the website is unleashandinvest.com. I know Ken Wilson's going to be there. I've never been to Vegas, Debbie, so I'm really excited for it. Mindy, love you guys. Love you, love you, love you. All right. Now, for the moment you've all been waiting for, we have an amazing guest coming on. You know what's funny? They say your friends, your friends. What is it? Your clients will become your friends before your friends become your clients. And this is 100% the case. I've had the pleasure and the privilege of getting to know the man, the myth, the Terramane for almost a year now. And he has become a brother to me. He's a very genuine and loving and wonderful individual. I cannot wait to go meet him. We're going to play some ball. It is on my bucket list for this year to make it over to his place, and we're going to play some ball. I'm not going to even go into what the name of the game is called, because I'm going to let him share all that. But guys, give some love for my BFF, Seth Terramane. What's going on, buddy? How are you, man?
What's going on? It's so good to see you. It's so good.
It's good to see you too, bro. I love what you have going on here, man.
I know it's always in stages of shortness or growth, depending on wherever I am.
No, I get it. Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. I mean, to be honest with you, Seth, in front of everybody here, I'll just say this. I was like, man, we intermittently we'll catch each other on like a Zoom or something. I'm excited to be able to meet in person. But I'm like, man, I haven't shaved since the last time Seth saw me. I hope that he's like, I hope that he's not going to be like, who's that guy? So I was kind of worried about that. But
with your hair growing long and your beard getting really long now.
Yeah, both of them. Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it, dude. How are you doing, man?
Hi, Carlin.
I just shaved, if you're curious.
Oh, okay. You look great.
Thanks.
This is how we do it.
Yeah. I'm fantastic, man. I'm doing really well. And the person who gave me the shout out in the comments, that was my operations manager, Jess Brill. She is awesome. Go connect.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome, brother.
Yeah. So I'm doing great.
Where are you at right now?
Physically? Or
where do you live?
I live in Vermont. Yep. So we're some people know this, but I own an organic vegetable farm in Vermont. It's April, which means we can actually put things in the ground now, and it's not too cold. We're doing that right now. So yeah, this morning before I was making phone calls, or on my meetings, I was out there running a little tractor. I walk behind tractor and getting things set up. So yeah, it's fun. That's good things.
Dude, I love that, man. You know, when the first thing I thought about that, the first thing when I first learned that, my first thought was like, man, you got like some Dwight Schrute stuff going on out here, like you out like farming beets.
I only grow beets. That's the only thing I grow. Yeah.
What's that?
I only grow beets. Yeah.
You only grow beets?
Yeah, beets, right? Isn't that the only thing he grows?
It's always drinking beet juice and all the things.
No, we grow so much. We grow so much. We have like 30 or 40 different varieties of vegetables. So yeah, we grow a lot. But we get crunchy. We we're out there with our drinking beet juice. That's fine. That's what we do. Yeah.
That's your Sunday afternoon.
How do you, such a young guy, you know, when most people, I mean, I grew up in Idaho. There's a lot of farming and things that go on in Idaho. And, Sean Clark, New Hampshire here. What's up, Seansy?
Nice.
Just a hop and a skip away, right?
Yeah, that's where I grew up, Sean. I grew up in New Hampshire, actually. Yeah.
How far away is New Hampshire and Vermont?
Well, they touch each other.
Well, I know that.
Okay. How's your geography? You've been everywhere, right?
I live in Alaska, and of course I know what's going on all the other side of the, on the other side of the states.
No, for where I live like 20 minutes away from the New Hampshire border. And Jess, actually, I just mentioned Jess, she lives like 40 minutes away, which is crazy when you're in like different types of groups and you're meeting and you're connecting and doing business together. You know, like I only see people on the Zoom box, right? But the fact that Jess is literally 45 minutes away is crazy. But yeah, I'm real close to New Hampshire.
Okay. So I grew up in Idaho. Like I said, there's a lot of farming and stuff that goes on in Idaho. When people talk about graduating high school, like, I don't know that I've ever talked to anybody, and I know it's so lucrative of an industry, the farming industry. Like, how do you end up in that? Like, how do you tell us a little bit about, like, what was that background? Like, you graduate high school.
Yeah.
Did you go right into this? Did you go right into like agriculture and things like that? Or like, how did you get into that? And then I want to know like where that pivot went from farming to real estate.
Sure. Yeah. It's kind of a crazy thing because I tell people when say like, oh, have you been in farming forever? Or how long have you been in real estate or whatever? My path has never been a linear path. Like and this is sort of what makes me up, right? Like I have tried and failed so many things that maybe not fail's not the right word, learned and moved on from all these things, right? So literally my background is in you ready? I don't even know if you know this. My background is in poetry.
What?
So I am
you could have been writing and sharing poetry this whole time.
Yeah. So I'm a trained poet. I'm a creative writer. I almost went into journalism, writing for a paper. I was a copywriter for a while. So man, the number of jobs, like this whole podcast would be just filled up with me listing all the jobs I've had. But wow. Yeah, it's so many. But that's kind of the thing, right? So like first I started out as I actually have a master's degree in literature and I was teaching and then from there I decided not to go on for my PhD, moved into medicine, and so I was on my way to med school. Med school, and then I was doing I was running a clinical lab, so I was doing clinical research at the same time as I was studying for med school, and then I switched into farming, believe it or not, from medicine. And so, yep, you got questions. I know you do.
I've got questions.
So here's the thing though, right? And then I'll let you ask your question. I told my mentor at the time, my doctor mentor that I was with, and I said, listen, I'm not going to go to med school. I decided I'm just going to stop and I'm not going to go to med school. I'm going to go into farming. Right. And that's a while ago now. That was over a decade now. And he said two things for me. And he said, one, I've never ever heard of anybody switching from medicine to farming, right? So he's a little incredulous. And the second thing he said, which I have just taken to heart forever, is I guess we'll just be making people healthy from a different point of view. And he got it immediately, and that's exactly why we were going into farming. And so, yeah. And then hard work for 10 years until we bought our own farm 3 years ago. And then realized, hey, that doesn't come with a retirement plan. We should probably do something about that and pivot it into real estate. So, yeah. Yeah.
Interesting, bro. Wow. My goodness. How did it take us almost a year to figure out all this stuff? I had no idea any of that stuff, man.
Yeah, when I focus, so you might I don't talk about the other stuff because
you're an enigma.
So basically you're like, I don't really want to deal with pills. I'm just going to go make beet juice because that's healthy.
I mean, the idea was right. Food is medicine. And I know that's not this podcast, but we could absolutely talk about the whole food industry and how that plays. But yeah, food is medicine. Absolutely. And so, it was a big decision, one that did not come lightly, because I spent a lot of time in medicine, but it was fun. It was ultimately the absolutely correct decision to make. And so
that is so cool.
So
that amazing.
Thank you. Yeah.
What was the so you bought a farm a couple years ago. Now I know you're in cahoots with all kind of like all the farmers all around the area. You guys all go to a market, and you've kind of explained a little bit of this to me before. Like you guys share food, or I know I'm wording all this stuff wrong.
Yeah, there's a couple things that we do. Like when we landed in the spot that we landed, we picked it mainly because of the market. We did market research. We're like, this place needs an organic farm, and we love the place, and so we'll move there, right? But when we landed here, man, and this concept has carried all the way through real estate, which is community, right? We landed, and the community that we landed in, unbeknownst to us, was the best community. And so when we got here, people just were flocked to the farm. They just welcomed us with open arms. Within a month, I think we had 50 friends who wanted to, hang out and do stuff with. And that's where, and you just said play ball, right? That's where that comes from.
Yeah.
We're going to play what's called farm ball, which is literally volleyball in somebody's field with no shoes on, and you're just drinking beer, listening to the fiddle and the banjo play, because there's banjo and fiddle players, and play volleyball. It's super fun every Sunday night. Yeah.
And when did that start?
Oh, well, for us, when we first got here, it was like we were coming into the season, and they're like, come to farm ball. It's going to be fun. That farm ball has been going on that farm for 30 years.
For 30 years.
30 years.
No, it's not year round. What's farm ball season look like?
Well, the farmer who owns the farm, his name is Willis. He's like
Willis,
60 years old, right? He's
that sounds like a farmer name. If you would have said,
hey, I got a Vermont Willis farmer name, right? Willis.
Yeah.
And so he was like, he goes, "Yep, we start when we start, and we end when we end." That's what he says. So when it's warm enough to start playing, and when it's cold enough to stop playing, that's sort of when it.
So how do farmers communicate? Does he just send everybody around like a piece of paper with a dove attached to it, and just letting everybody know, hey, farm ball this Tuesday?
We don't even have electricity in Vermont, so yeah, that's the only way to do it.
That's what I thought. I was wondering if you guys were still making candles out of like goat's milk and beeswax to light up your house at night. Earwax. Oh, right. Okay.
Man, so when you jumped into real estate and you were like, man, I can skip trace and get people's information. I don't have to door knock, and must have just been.
Yeah, it was amazing. The technology has come so far.
Love it, brother. So share with me a little bit about the pivot that you guys have made in real estate. Like what sparked that decision? I know you've got a family. You might share a little bit about that, like how long you've been married. And I'd love for you to kind of if you're okay with it. What I found really interesting, and like I said, every time that we talk, I'm finding out more and more. And you're a freaking onion, bro. And I love that about you. What was very interesting.
Is that because I have layers, or because I make people cry?
You make us cry tears of joy.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you for the clarification. Yeah.
And you also grow onions, probably.
And I go
I
in.
would just, yeah.
Dude, I thought what you said about your last name. Do you mind talking about that?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. So I have a family. My wife, I have 2 kids, 7-year-old and a 2-year-old. Their names are Adelaide and Hawthorne. We call them Addie and Huck. Yeah. And so my last name, Terramane, is we're the only Terramanes in the world. So because we made up our own last name. And so when we got married, Christine didn't want to take my last name and I didn't want to take her last name, but we wanted to be a family unit. And so we wanted one last name. And we spent probably 6 or 8 months trying to figure out a last name, and where truly we weren't going to, piss off one of our families. So it can't be Italian. It can't be French. It can't be Irish. It can't be English. That's my background. And so we literally went to Latin and we were just picking concepts about what makes us us, and smushing it together. So, yeah, it was a really fun process, and I really wish that we had written down some of the rejected names. I don't know why we didn't do that. They were hilarious. They were so stupid, and it doesn't even sound like a real last name. But yeah, we didn't do that.
So,
yeah.
Can you tell us what the translation of your last name is then?
Sure. Terra is pretty easy. That means earth, right? So we were already sort of connected to the earth when we got married, sort of very naturally, green, crunchy. And then Maine is actually, it stands for the morning, as in like the sunrise, but the root of that word is permanency. So like the sun is always going to rise, right? And so we just sort of put that together as, we love the sun. We love the fact that we're going to be together forever, that permanent type of thing. And here we are on the earth, right? So yeah.
See, that's why you're an onion, Seth.
Wow, dude.
So many layers.
Dude, that's deep, man. That would have been a terrible story if you would have been like, yeah, we landed on Jones,
Yeah, right. Yeah. There were so many. Yeah, we definitely stick. There were some names that we were just like this is a cool concept, but it was already a name, and so we didn't want to do that. Yeah.
Let me ask you. You mentioned poetry. And that's something that really resonated with me because I love music. I write music. I'm a songwriter. I love everything about it. My favorite class growing up was English class. I just loved the communicative process. I loved bending words and diagramming words and diagramming sentences. And dude, can I what triggered that for you? Like, what about poetry stood out to you? Was it something like for me, I got into poetry. My appreciation for that began with music.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like, what was it for you? I'm really interested.
Yeah. So this is a common theme for me in my life, right? Where I come to things where I feel like I come to things late, right? Like it takes me a while to figure out the thing. And then once I figure out the thing, I'm in it. Right. So for poetry, so in high school, that wasn't me at all. I was a math and science dude. And I was so focused on math. I took 5 or 6 years of math in high school because I was doubling up on math classes. And then when I got back to college, I was like, well, I don't want to do this. I'm not like looking for math as a career or something. And I remember taking sort of the prereq English class, and we were reading poetry in there, and it just absolutely clicked. And I fell in love with, if anybody knows the poet John Keats, he wrote Ode to a Grecian Urn is one of his famous poems. But I fell in love with the Romantic poets, and it spoke to me when I was reading it. And I remember having a class where I was supposed to have read a poem, and we we're going to talk about this poem, right? And I read the wrong poem, for school. And so other people were giving their presentations, and I'm like quickly reading this, this really long poem. And the other two presenters that I have on the same poem, they could barely talk about the poem. And, I had finished the poem 2 seconds ago, and I was like, yeah, here's all the themes. Here's what we're talking about. Here's, it just clicked. And I just loved it. And so, and then I spent 4 years just writing poetry, which was really great.
Did you have it published at all, or?
I had a few published when I was in school and a little bit outside of school.
Really?
Nothing
Wow.
like super hardcore magazines or anything like that. But yeah, I had that. Like at one point in school, I had this whole series of poems that I called the 1 a.m. poems, because for some reason I would just wake up at 1 a.m. every single day for like, I don't know, 4 months, and I would just have this poem in my head, and I would have to write it down before I could go back to sleep. And I guess I just sort of trained my brain after a while, but it was like, yeah, I woke up every day at 1 a.m. every day for 4 months just to write poets and poems. And so it was
Oh my goodness.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The trigger was connection, to be honest. Right. Like I was reading myself in the poems. And so it made a big difference. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Shannon. That's very nice.
Yeah, this is really great, man. Dude, let me share. Can I share one of mine with you?
Yeah.
I wrote this when I was in 7th or 8th grade, one of those two.
Let's go.
And I was listening to a lot of like Metallica, Slayer, like a lot of like 80s dark heavy metal shit. And a lot of that stuff is like it's very dark, not in a dude, I mean, you get some really dark stuff, now. But
That's
a lot of that stuff
in high school.
it was, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, it was just heavy metal, dude. And so that's kind of where this was inspired. So it was called the poem was called A Fountain of Deceit was the name of the poem. And it went something like, through the mist in the dead of the night, the past is shown as the guiding light. Holding close to what I know, dissension turns and claims its throne. Naive ignorance of, oh man, I messed that up.
Just keep
Dissension heated by your strife, corrupted of and by deceit, endless woe and misery. Something like that. It's got a really.
I'm very impressed that you remember that from 7th grade. That's amazing.
I was listening to a lot of Metallica, man. I was so like when I dive into a song, my wife, even to this day, my wife I listen to a song, like I will listen to it on repeat like 50 times in a row. Like anytime we get in the car, that's all my wife hears. And of course, my wife, not being like really into music like I am, all she hears is the freaking song repeated 50 times.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, I listen to like the first 5 times, I'm just listening to the song in general. And then the next 5 times I'm listening to, it's like the vocal melodies. And then 10 times after that, I'm reading the lyrics as I'm going through it. So it's new for me every single freaking time. And so that just kind of became part of my, I don't know. It's like anything else, dude. It's a skill, man. When you become obsessed with something, dude, like you really start to build a skill around it, man. And so for me, I really resonated with writing and creating songs, and obviously, poetry was a big part of that for me. So we're gonna have to talk more offline about that, dude. I resonate with that. That is super dope.
But what you just said too is super important, right? This idea, like you can look at something over and over and over again, but if your focus is different on that same thing, you're going to find something else different in that thing, right? I read the same poems over and over and over again because there was something else to pull from them. But it's the same thing with like talking with people or building relationships or whatever it is. That focus really determines the outcome, right? Whatever you're
Absolutely
get out of it. Yeah.
It's almost the same thing with real estate. It's almost the same thing with business. I mean, how many of us do the same thing every single time, every single day? And there's just so many things out there that it's like, man, I feel like I'm doing something different, but it never seems to manifest different results. I'd love to kind of pivot a little bit and hear kind of what your real estate journey is like. How come you got into real estate? What's your journey been like so far? What are some of the obstacles that you have faced that you have also seen other people face, and how have you overcome a lot of those things and leading up to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think a lot of my story I don't think is very unique. I think a lot of people are going through similar things, and I think that's very helpful because you can learn so much from other people. But But yeah, I think my real estate journey started with the same as a lot of other people, by reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. Right, I pulled something out of that, saw something of me in that, and it just clicked and made sense. And I was thinking back the other day. I think my real estate journey actually started like maybe a decade before I read that, because I think I remember buying some weird real estate buy at home thing that was going to teach you how to buy real estate. And I don't think I did anything with it. I was too far outside of my comfort zone at that time that I could actually do anything with. But yeah, that's where it started, and we bought our first triplex. Well, I should say I spent an entire year in analysis paralysis, right? Where all I did was analyze before I did anything. So I would come home from my job, and I would underwrite 5-6 properties every single night. It didn't move on any of them. Even when I found a deal, I would be like, I found one, and that was it. I didn't do anything with it. But yeah, I spent all year just underwriting, which is why today I'm very good at underwriting. But yeah, that's where it started. We bought our first triplex right before COVID, actually, and ran that triplex. Made a ton of mistakes on that triplex, and sold it afterwards, which gave us the startup money for our farm, actually. So yeah, that's sort of where we started. But the first thing that ever happened with that, we owned that triplex for 2 weeks. Somebody kicked in the front door in the middle of winter. The pipes that were in a soffit there froze, broke, and completely flooded our basement apartment.
Oh my gosh!
And this is our first foray into
welcome to real estate.
Yeah. He's a kick in the balls. There you go. Keep going. Yeah. And the way that we got that, I knew nothing about creative financing or anything like that. We bought it conventionally, but the way we bought it was we literally wrote the seller a love letter, and we were just like, we love this property. Thank you so much for taking good care of it. And it worked. And they sold us the property. I mean, we weren't even the best offer, but they liked our letter, so it worked. Yeah.
So aside from that, what did you learn from that? From that experience?
Was
it like, and it could just be like a reality set in, it could have been like,
yeah. And what happened was, that was sort of the start of my mindset journey, was there, right? It didn't pick up until later, but that was certainly the start of my mindset journey, because there was nothing left to do but go forward. Right. We couldn't go backwards. It's not like we could have given back the house. It's not like we could have got our money back. Right. It was only moving forward. One of the things that I say today in my own life all the time is, well, that was a lesson, right? Rather than, oh, I failed, or whatever the case is. Right. And so, yeah, so it was just move forward. And it was like, okay. And I was already in farming at that point. And so it was like, we solve problems all day long on a farm. That's basically all we do. So when this happened, it was like, oh, this is a problem we have to solve. So how do we solve it? And it translated very nicely into real estate. And then after, though, we did this, we sold it, but we started our farm. And it was a while before we went back into real estate, because we were getting this business off the ground. And I don't think we were gun shy, but it was more like, we need to figure some things out. And that's sort of when we started into sub 2. But yeah.
When did you guys decide that? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just said there was so many lessons on that. Yeah.
And that's the great thing about real estate, I'm finding, is there's not like a one size fits all necessarily. There's so many ways to make money into real estate. And I love what Julie posted right here. Said, I feel like I was stuck in analysis paralysis as well. And then I realized I do not want to do wholesaling. I have found that so many people get into something that, you mentioned, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Mhm.
I remember reading that in high school, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is insane. This is such a whole new way of thinking about wealth and debt and money and time and relationships. And after I got into real estate, it took me a few years to realize, I was like, man, you know what? This is really interesting. I am doing something that really I have no ambition on doing. It took me to kind of sit there and ponder for a second and think, well, why am I out here? Why am I wholesaling? Why did I start a wholesaling business?
Mhm.
Is
Mhm.
there a better way to go about it? Is there a different way to go about it? Like, I got into real estate to buy properties and not to wholesale. So why am I not just focusing on that? For you, did you go through a similar kind of transition yourself, or did you jump into real estate pretty close? I mean, you mentioned, that first property that you guys purchased. I mean, did you go right into just purchasing properties, and then now you're scaling that? Now you're building out your business and putting systems in place to scale that.
Yeah, I would. The thing. It's a fantastic question because I think, and I've been to the Squad Up Summit last week, and met so many people, and now I'm one of the things I really love to do is start helping people get their first deals and figure out underwriting and all that stuff, and help people along their journeys. But um, but yeah, so when I jumped into Sub Two, the first thing I did was like, I need now money, right? I need to get money now.
Mhm.
And that was a big thing. And a partner and I spent an entire year wholesaling, right? Learning how to negotiate, learning how to close deals, all, sales techniques, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and I that was what I was doing uh, because I thought that was the thing that was going to get me to the thing, right? The
Mhm.
thing being the thing that I wanted to do for real, right? And and then halfway through 2023, I went through your coaching program, which we could spend all day talking about that, but certainly gave me insight, gave me clarity and on how to do that. But I went through it with the idea of wholesaling, right? Like I was
Mhm.
applying that to my wholesale business. Um, and the skills are applicable in anything. The stuff that you teach is applicable everywhere, but it's like once my partner and I split at the end of 2023, just
Mhm.
because we were going in different directions,
Sure.
it was like, now what, right? Do I continue doing this wholesale thing to get me to the thing, or do I switch gears and actually do the thing that I wanted to do? In
Mhm.
which your advice comes in there too, right? So it's like you don't need to do wholesaling in order to get to the thing you want to do, which for me was raising capital and buying properties. And so just building my portfolio, building my wealth. Yeah, and so I think you've heard me say this before, but one of my favorite quotes, you guys can't see it, but on my wall over here I have my inspiration board. And one of the things that I love, one of my favorite things is, the only thing that is doing the thing is doing the thing. And that it's a longer quote, but that's the final line of that quote. And so yeah, it was just like, if you want to, on your advice too, man, it was like, if you want to go and build your wealth and build your portfolio, just go do that, and figure out how to do that. Yeah.
And now you've already got plans. You've already got systems in place and processes. You're building a team all around doing that one thing, man.
Yeah.
What is the biggest piece of advice you would have if you could, because I know we got a good mixture of people in here, people that are out doing the thing, people that are trying to get their first deal, people that are trying to get some clarity on what they should even be doing or what to focus on. Now, if you were that person, if you go back and give yourself some advice 18 months ago, based on where you are right now, what is that thing that you would love everybody to take away with if you were to give advice like through yourself?
Yeah, beyond the idea of don't waste time doing something to get you to the thing that you want to do, right? That was a big lesson for me. But we just sort of talked about that. But um, one of the main things that both your coaching program, but also being vulnerable here, I'm in therapy as well, and so that was super helpful for me just to get clarity on myself. But one of the main things that I think is super helpful um, is, if I get stuck, going back to my own core values about why I'm doing the things that I'm doing and how that transitions me to something else, right? So if I get stuck on a problem or whatever and I don't know what path to go down, I think about the core values, and and everybody's is different. Mine, some of mine are like, I'm a provider, a good friend, a good husband, a good father, being honest, being open, communication, right? All those things are core values. And when you look at it through that filter, the answers kind of stand out. Like they stand out so much, much more in relief that you can pick it out easier, versus scrambling to try to find whatever it is the next thing is.
So to me, it kind of sounds like what you're saying, and thank you for sharing that. To me, it kind of sounds like when you're saying it, I've seen this a lot. I've experienced this myself. When you get into real estate, when you start building a business, when you see whether your dreams can become a reality, you can see what you can do because you see other people doing it. It's also really easy to slip into the mindset of, man, if I was just that person, my life would be made. I got it. But you brought up something that was really interesting. That's like, hey, when you have those feelings, when you feel like you're slipping, when you feel like you are deciding, hey, should I take this leap? Should I not take this leap? Should I take this deal? Should I not take this deal? Should I move forward with this? Should I not? A good rule of thumb is always kind of going back and like looking at like, who are you? What are your core values? What are important to you? And those types of things should what's the word? Is emulate the right word I'm looking for here? Emanate. Thank you. Emanate throughout your business as well.
Yes. And it plays in everything, like that, coming back to the person who you, not necessarily who you are, because that changes too, but who you are trying to become, right? And we talked about that in sort of goal setting, right? Like whatever the person is that you want to become, just become that person now. Do the thing now, right? But yeah, it comes back to the idea of like if I'm a provider and I'm like, well, I'm scared to do this deal. It's a little risky, but if we do it and we do it right, then we're gonna provide more, right?
Yeah.
Like so, and it's like, okay, great. So there's the decision. It's already made. It's what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. And along those same lines too, the thing that is utmost in all of this, right, is the relationships that we build. Right. And that comes back to the core values for myself too. Right. So like, I called you the other day, right? I was like, I'm having this problem with this thing, with this deal that I'm trying to do. And it's, I spent all this past week putting out a couple of big fires. But so I called you and I was like, hey, I need help on this thing. And you're like, absolutely. Let's go. Whatever I can do to help, let's go. Right. And the same thing on the other fire that I was putting out, right? It's like, I'm stuck in this position, and I reached out to a handful of people, and they were like, yeah, let's go. Like I can help you, And so it's just like, if you don't have those relationships, personally, business wise, whatever it is, it's going to be a much harder road, And I don't think
more reason to be building your tribe of millionaires.
Oh, perfect segue back. Yeah, that book is so good. That was one of the first books I started reading when I was in mindset mode.
Yeah. Carlin and I, going back to that, we even named our group chat Tribe of Millionaires, man.
Love it.
It's so important. And you brought this up, getting clarity and acknowledging like who you see as your future self.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you see yourself being? Like, close your eyes and just take a second and just think. When you look at, and we had a coaching call last night, and I had Kevin Schuweiler on, and just kind of wrapping up here, he talked about, he took everybody kind of through an exercise, said, hey, shut your eyes, and I want you to pretend like you're at this party, and you're looking around, and out of the corner of your eye, don't look at this person, out of the corner of your eye, you see somebody walk in, and as soon as that person walks in that party, like there's an energy shift. It's almost like Michael Jackson or something walking in, like you don't even have to full on see that person. And, there's an energy shift. There's something that's transformed here. And as you keep that person in your peripherals, you start to understand that is you 12 months from now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I want you to notice, how do they look? How do they stand? How do they communicate? I want you to really feel the energy that they emulate and the lighthouse effect, the people that they attract in there. And man, that's such a powerful freaking exercise to be around. To have an understanding of who you want to become and who you are, and the fact that you don't have to wait 18 months or 12 months or a year, 2 years, 5 years to become that person. When you get clarity around how they communicate, what is their characteristic, what is their integrity level like? Are they willing to drop anything and everything for the people around them? Do they blow people off? Are they punctual? Are they respectful? Having all of these very, very clear details, you just step into that person now. You can just become that person now, and you'll start to see just things just start to manifest and change at such a rapid rate. It's incredible.
It's so important. Yeah,
it is, man. Dude, you are an onion, bro. We need to definitely have you back on the show. We need to go we're going to need to do maybe 3 or 4 parts here, dude. Cause I just have so much that I want to dive into just from you as just a human aspect, man. You're such an amazing individual. You're a father, you're a husband, you're a brother, you're a friend, you're a real estate investor, you're a partner and farmer, bro. So much to dive in here, man. Thank you so much for coming on today. We really appreciate you. I love you, Seth, and I appreciate your friendship, brother. Thank you so much.
Everything the same. I love you guys too. It's so good. You guys, I would be a different person without you two. So it's all good. Yeah.
That's fully received, man. Thank you very much. The feeling is absolutely mutual. Thank you guys for jumping on today. Real quick, Seth, where can everybody reach out to you? I saw a couple people in the comments that were like, man, I need to reach out to Seth. Where can they reach out to you at, bro?
Yeah. So you can find me there. My Instagram handle is there at Seth Terramane. You could also you're also welcome to email me if you want. So it's just my first name, Seth. I can't comment, so I can't write it down, but Seth at terrafirmainvestments.com.
Perfect. And if you guys need help with that, just reach out to me. I can put you guys in contact with Seth.
Yep.
Awesome, brother. Well, thank you very much. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day. We'll see you guys next week.
See y'all.
See ya.